Okay, looks like the live feed is with us now, so.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay, well, we'll just jump right into the questions. You have a minute to answer each of them. First of all, given the current political climate in DC and the rest of the nation, how would you approach building bipartisan alliances?
Ooh, great question. Well, I am a people person. I love Americans. I look at people for their humanity. And I am excited to work with all parties, especially if they're willing to read the Constitution and work towards constitutional government again. I think that too many people in Washington take their oath to uphold and defend this Constitution, and then they throw it in the garbage. And I think there's plenty of people who go to Washington who probably have never read this document and take their oath frivolously. And so I want to take my Constitution and shove it in their face and say, let's work together and get back to basics in America. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next, what current legislation being considered in Congress do you feel will have the greatest impact on our state?
Oh, the greatest impact on our state. Well, there are a couple of things going through Congress right now that I would like to see passed. Three things in particular. One, H.R. 25, which is the fair tax, which I advocate for. I have information on the table back there all about the fair tax. Now I can't remember the numbers of these bills, but there's also another bill out there right now that is a one-subject bill, where when you present a bill, it can only be one subject. Wouldn't that be nice in Congress? So there's no more riders or anything like that. I think that would have a big benefit to Wyoming. I also know that there's a bill out there to end the Department of Education, which is an unconstitutional bureaucratic agency, and I think that would also have a big impact on the state of Wyoming. Thank you.
All right. Next, if elected, what would be your top priority upon taking office?
Well, my top priority upon taking office really is fiscal responsibility. I think that the way the government spends our money is immoral, and nobody is really doing anything about that. What I see in Congress between the Republicans and the Democrats is that no matter who they are, they vote to spend more money. And there is no forward thinking on what the spending is doing to our economy, to our future. We are burdening our children with unbelievable debt. I was reading a statistic today that said 80% of our debt was put on in the last 20 years, and that is unacceptable, and I want to stop that.
Thank you, Marissa. Next, Wyoming continues to be impacted by its reliance on extractive industries and swings in that market. What steps do you believe are needed by Congress to alleviate the negative impact of efforts to drive to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy?
Well, I think that we should let the free market do its job, because it is not the federal government's responsibility to be inserting itself into our energy industry. So I actually would like to work towards ending the Department of Energy, because it is also an unconstitutional bureaucratic agency, and we did fine without it up until 1977. It has changed too many times. And so I would like to end that agency. I think that the state of Wyoming should be in charge of what it wants to do with its energy and how it wants to proceed. So that's what I believe about energy.
Okay. And lastly, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, inflation is the top concern for small businesses. What immediate solutions would you offer to address this?
Well, as I said in my previous answer, I believe in working towards a balanced budget. And I think getting citizens aware of the amounts of money that are being spent, also working on passing the fair tax, everything kind of goes together, because it's taxation, it's spending, it's the Federal Reserve, which is just so wrong and needs to go away. You know, if we didn't have the Federal Reserve, our government couldn't spend as much money and appropriate money that doesn't exist if we didn't have them creating credit out of nothing. Some of the things that I want to work on are difficult, but I think that they're very necessary for America.
Excellent. All right, Ms. Selvig, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Well, great. Since the camera didn't hear my my opening, I am Marissa Selvig. I am the Constitution Party candidate. I do believe that it is time for us to look beyond Republicans and Democrats in Washington. And I think that that's something that you need to consider when you go to the polls in November. You know, Thomas Paine said in 1795 that he that would make his own liberty secure must guard even his enemy from oppression. For if he violates this duty, he establishes a precedent that will reach to himself. And what I see happening in Washington is a lot of revenge governance from both sides. And it's unacceptable for us to govern our country that way. And so when you go to the polls, think about it. Do you want someone who isn't here on this stage tonight to talk to you? Do you want someone who is going to be beholden to what their party leadership says? The Republicans or the Democrats? I personally, as a constitutionalist, this is where I take my direction from. When I go to Washington, my oath is to uphold and defend this document for you so that I can get this nation free again, so that we can be free to be responsible for ourselves, and so our state can be responsible once again for itself. So I would appreciate your vote when you go to the polls in November. Think, pray, and vote, and tell your friends. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
All right.